Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be teaching the basics of the C# programming languages by making a small console game. As you know, I like to play games and I program, and I'm going to combine the two to make an interesting way to learn C# by making a game. We're going to start by hitting File, New, Project, and going and creating a console app.NET Core. And basically, we're going to name it our RPG game, and we're going to create that game in our whatever repo we want to. Okay. Now that we're here, we have the main function right here. And what this does is whenever you run the program, it's going to run whatever's inside main. This is built by the, when you create a new tutorial, a new project, the framework creates this just kind of as a base to start. This part here, you don't delete this because this is the part that gets run. So in here, you can see console right line says hello world. So if I was to run the game by hitting the play at the top here, it's called RPG game because that's what I named this project. You will see that it's building, and then the console pops up, and then it closes. You can see out here the hello world gets printed out, and then when the debugging stops, this disappears just so it doesn't automatically close the window. So you can hit that, and then we continue. First, I'm going to go over variables. Variables are containers that hold data. So if we have a number variable called, let's say, random number, you can store 5 into random number. And basically, this is a container to hold data. And programming is basically just storing and moving and manipulating data. So variables are going to be a huge part of things because it allows us to take in this user input, like what is your name? The variable could be name, and it can now be David is the value. So we're gonna do variables first. So to show this, first I'm going to increase the size a little bit here so we can see it better on the screen, and then I'm going to type in here. So when you declare a variable, you type in the data type that it is. So in this case, I'm going to make an int variable, which is a number that doesn't have a decimal point. You give it the name of the variable, so I'm going to say random number, and then a semicolon to end the line. So this basically right here, I have created a variable called random number that stores only integer values. Now, integer values are, as I mentioned before, are numbers without a decimal. So if I wanted to assign this just immediately, I can put an equal sign here and say the number 4. So now random number equals 4. Now if I was to say 4.4, this would error. As you can see, a red line appears under it. If you put your mouse over it, it'll tell you why. Or if you have the error list down in the bottom left of the screen, which I believe I'm covering. So I'm going here. You can see it says cannot explicitly convert type double to int. I mean this number right here is a double and not an int. So we're going to go through the data types, and I'm going to give you examples of each. So for an int, we're just going to go with 4. Now we're going to make a double. I'm going to call it random number 2. You can't have variables with the same name. So if I was to name this, it would error and say random number is already defined. You cannot redefine it. So I'm going to name it random number 2. You also cannot start variable names with a number, and you can't have spaces. So if you want to do spaces, you can do underscores, or you can do capital case, kind of like how I have it here, where random, and then every part number that changes is capital. In that case, it will go. Okay, so we got int and double. So now we've accomplished numbers and then decimal numbers. Character, which is just a single character, which is denoted by single quotes, and then inside there it'd be the character A. But you can't have 2 characters, it has to be a single character. Character is a single thing. There's string, string, that's what's wrong, which you could, let's say, it's the name, which is donated by double quotes, which is basically a bunch of characters strings together. So I can type in David. So it's the character D followed by the character A, etc., etc. You can put spaces in it, etc. You got bool, which is, let's say, result, and this is true or false. And basically, this is a flag that could say something true or something false. So you can, did hit enemy, true or false, something of that nature. A major one that is very complex is object. We'll call it my object. And this object is the base class of all objects that you could make. Now, objects are a collection of properties that you could classify as a single thing. So in this case, we're going to eventually make an object class called player, which is this. It's called player, and it has all the properties of a player, such as the player's health. The health is a number, so it's an int. So the player has health, which is an integer. So it's 100. It can go down. If you wanted the player to have health, that could go to the points. You would have the health be double, and then he could get hurt, and he can go down to 55.5 or something of that nature. But right now, these are the main data types that you will most likely be using in their base forms. But objects, you will most likely be using other classes, such as program, console, system, etc. These right here will designate as green by the default color of Visual Studio. So to start off with some basics of collecting a variable and storing it, to kind of show you that in game form, what we're going to do is we're going to delete all this, and we're going to start with outputting something for the game. Now, it's a good practice to always comment your code so you and the other programmers know what you're trying to do with it. If you hit 2 backslashes, I believe they're backslashes, they could be forward slashes, but I think they're 2 backslashes, allows you to put a comment in the code. So here, we're going to output the text stating that we want the player's name. So in this case, as you can see already down here, console.writeLine allows you to write lines to the console. So inside here, it takes the parameter it takes right here, you can see is a string of the value, and it writes the specified string value to the output stream, which in this case is the console. So in here, we're going to say, what is your name? We're going to say question mark. So now, you'll see if I only run this right now, and I'm going to hit the play button up here for RPG game, it's going to, the console app is going to say, what is your name? So we're going to now console, which allows you to handle functions like actions related to the console screen. If you hit period, you'll be able to see options that you can use on console. So what we want to do is read the line. Whatever line we type in, we want to be able to read it. And then you can see that in here, it takes back a string. This will be explained better when we get into functions, but right now we're going to just use console.readLine, and then in these parentheses we put nothing, and then semicolon. Now, since this returns a string, we want to store that string into a variable. So we can create a string at the front, and we're going to call this player's name. We're going to put a comma what we're doing. Store the player's name entered. So now, in this case, if we run the game, we're not going to see too much happen, but it says, what is your name? Now it is waiting for us to type in input. If I type in David, then hit enter, now the program ends, which is why that text comes up. It took what I typed in David and stored it inside player's name, but I haven't done anything with it. So right now, I'm going to output it and say, let the player know his name. And here we're going to say console.writeLine, which is what you saw before. And and we're going to say thank you for entering your name, and then this is going to be David. So this is what I want to come out on the screen with a period, because we have to good punctuation, right? We're professional. So this, it's not always going to be David. Anyone can enter whatever they want for their name. So at this point, this part has to be the player's name, which we stored inside this variable. Now this string, can be combined by multiple sections. So what I mean by that is here, when I could end this string, so now the string is just going to be thank you for entering your name, comma. It's going to be output to the screen. Now I'm going to end that string. I'm going to plus and add a variable being player's name. And then I'm going to plus and add another string being the period at the end. Because if you don't put the period, it's not going to output. So at this point, I'm saying thank you for entering your name. I'm ending that string because that's a hard string. Like this it doesn't have any variables in it. It's hard coded. I'm ending that string. I'm appending to that string the player's name, so it's going to appear right at the end, right here. And then right after that, I'm entering a period. So here, we want to have a little bit of space just to make it look proper. If we had a space here, you can see thank you for entering your name, space, player name, period. So if we run that, which what I did right there, instead of hitting the play, I just hit F5 on my keyboard as a little shortcut to allow you to run. So now it says, what is your name? David. It says, thank you for entering your name, comma, space, David, and then the period. But because I kept saying David, it's not necessarily that impressive, but we're going to put John. So now we put John. Thank you for entering your name, John. So now John, the variable was stored. We stored your name, and now I outputted it to the screen. So that is the basics of data types and variables. In the next video, we're going to be going over if statements to allow the player to choose an attack. We're going to say you have encountered an enemy, and I want you to type in either 1, 2, 3, or 4, and then do an attack. And that's going to be in the next video. Thank you for watching.